Studio report. A news presenter is a person who presents news on a news program on the television, the radio, or the internet. They also might be a working journalist who is collecting news material and may provide commentary during the program. News presenters will often work in television studio, or they will work in a radio station. They may also present news from remote locations in the place that is related to the particular news event. The camera techniques for the studio reporter always make sure that the studio reporter will always be seen in the shot. This is done with a front-on view angle and a side view shot. Sometimes they will use a zoom-in movement of the studio report. An example of this could be the BBC News as they open the show from far away and slowly start to move into the studio report. The setting of the studio report is always made to look like a studio, and they always may have a desk around them. The studio reporter always has a straight posture with them standing up straight and looking interesting and smart. This is done so that the audience will take the studio reporter seriously. A studio reporter will always wear a suit or something that looks very smart and sophisticated. This is done to catch the eye of the audience and take the studio reporter seriously. The text within the news report is bold and stands out. This is done as there will be a serious topic that the studio reporter is talking about, and they want to catch the audience's attention by making the writing bold so that the viewer will notice.
A warning to the Police Federation from the Home Secretary. Reform or the government will do it for you. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the BBC News at 6. The Home Secretary, Theresa May, has made an uncompromising speech to the Police Federation.
Field report. A field reporter is a journalist who researches and presents information to certain types of media. A field reporter is someone who talks about the news where it is happening to. This reporter gathers information in a variety of ways. They perform research through interviews, public records, and other types of resources. A field reporter is expected to keep everyone updated with the news in the place the action is taking place to. A field reporter needs to be where the action is happening to so they can let the world know what is actually happening.
And Cale, tell us what the situation is there right now.
Well, we've just had the law enforcement helicopter fly right overhead. I'm sure you heard it through the microphone here. This is still a very active scene here this afternoon. They have now roped off an even larger area from when we saw you here at about 4:30 this afternoon. All of this has to deal with, and again, there goes that helicopter overhead. All of this has to deal with the fact that two deputies with the Lee County Sheriff's Office were struck by a car this afternoon, a car that we are told made a run from a red light stop. They were conducting traffic enforcement here in this area. We're not more than about a block away.
Links to the studio. Links to the studio is where the news teams on certain studios may want to discuss a news story with different news who may have more information that may have more information to share. This is also when they go from the field back to the studio to talk to someone who may have more information on the story. An example of this is the BBC News, as they use this a lot when they want to discuss a certain story with another studio.
The talks come as Labour joined David Cameron in saying they wouldn't back Jean-Claude Juncker, the former Prime Minister of Luxembourg, for the job. Our political correspondent Ben Wright is in Sweden, where the talks are taking place. Ben.
Sophie, here at the remote summer retreat of Sweden's Prime Minister, an argument about Europe's future is being played out over dinner. David Cameron is trying to persuade Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, that Jean-Claude Juncker should not become the next president of the European Commission.
Modes of address. The mode of address means how the media shouts to the audience. It means how the media presents and addresses itself to the audience to make the audience feel a connection. BBC News is an example of this because of the way that they have a routine which usually is the same every day. This is things such as a brief glimpse of what is coming up on the news. News readers will greet the viewers at home, and then they will present the news after the main headlines have been read. The local news readers will read it to you.
Good evening. The Chief Inspector of Schools in England, Sir Michael Wilshaw, has issued a damning verdict on how some schools in Birmingham have been run. He'd been investigating claims of a hardline Muslim takeover at some schools and said there was evidence of a campaign sparked by the so-called Trojan horse plot.
Interviewing. Interviews are a very important part of the media industry. They are mostly used to gain information on a certain topic or the subject from the people who are experts on the subject. This can also be the same to find people's views and opinions on certain topics. An example of this is BBC Match of the Day, as they interview a lot of football players, managers, coaches and more on the show.
We do have Islamic assemblies, but they just teach teach you lessons like to be being nice to one another, being nice to your parents and so on. It's not like we have assault courses on how to make bombs and all sorts of stuff.
In this school they say if you sit with a girl you're likely to work better.
He says that you could sit with the girls.
You can, but you can't like have a girlfriend or have a boyfriend, you can't do any of that. Yeah, that's true, because in Islam you can't have a girlfriend or boyfriend either.
Yeah,
so
but it's not an
right.
Islamic school.
And it feels like one, does it?
Yeah, it does feel like an Islamic school, but it's not supposed to be an Islamic school, it's an academy.
Report structure. A report structure means that the heaviest or the most important information should be at the top of the story. The least important information then will be placed at the bottom of the story. Then as you move from the top to the bottom of the list, the information should then start to become less important and less interesting. Actuality footage. Actuality footage is the footage that relates to the newsreaders and what they are talking about or describing. They will have the footage normally on the television whilst the newsreaders are describing the news. This is a visual aid to the viewers at home so they can have more and more of an understanding of the topic.
From a refugee camp in Lebanon.
The children are everywhere, and you see them there. Their hands are freezing, and their teeth are chattering. They're so cold.
It's believed to be the biggest gathering on Earth. We're going to show you the extraordinary sight of the Kumbh Mela festival in...
Expert and witnesses. An expert and witness are different types of things. An expert is someone who knows the subject very well and have been studying that topic for a long period of time. A witness, on the other hand, is someone who has only seen something and makes comments of what they have seen.
He stops and extremism begins.
Yeah, as Nick said, what is extremism? What we saw today was Michael Gove saying to every school in England they've got to promote British values, and we now know that what he means by that is democracy, individual liberty, tolerance of other people's beliefs and their faiths. But the Education Secretary is also on record for saying he wants faith schools to take advantage of the freedoms of academies and the free school project to break away from local authority control and, as he puts it, be true to their religious traditions. So there's something of a paradox here. Today we heard Ofsted talking about Muslim governors in Birmingham trying to impose a narrow religious ethos on the schools there, and Michael Gove talking about how actually he's talking about Catholic schools, but he wants an ethos, a pervasive set of religious values that find expression throughout the school day. There's a balance to be struck here. Difficult to find out what it is.
Well,